um, walking towards the fire. I love the fire. I fought a lot of fighters out there with big punches, and they haven't really been able to.
The build-up to the fight between Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley carries a sense of genuine anticipation because both men arrive with very different journeys and styles, yet collide at the exact moment the heavyweight division is searching for clarity. In the middle of this storm, Parker stands as the man who has shared the ring with the biggest names, a former champion reborn under Andy Lee, ready to make another climb to world honors. Wardley, on the other hand, is the undefeated puncher with charisma and grit, the man who built himself outside of the traditional amateur system, someone many believed would never reach this level. Both men are confident, but their confidence comes from very different places. That makes the October fight compelling not just as a spectacle, but as a true test of identity for both fighters. Wardley himself sounds determined, promising that he will not retreat from the pressure of the moment. He describes himself as a man who loves walking into the fire, who thrives under the kind of intensity that frightens others. He emphasizes that he has faced fighters with big punches before and has never backed off, making clear that he intends to fight Parker head-on. Asked if he believes he can knock out Joseph Parker, Wardley does not hesitate. He says he has the power to do so and insists that over 12 rounds there will be a moment where Parker gets clipped, a moment where Parker feels the floor beneath him. Whether or not that prediction becomes reality, Wardley assures fans that they know exactly what they get with him: unrelenting aggression, confidence, and drama. He insists that once the bell rings, he will be there in the middle of the ring ready and waiting to deliver. Wardley also recalls his previous experience against heavy-handed opponents. He points out that he has shared the ring with numerous fighters who can bang and who own high knockout ratios. He admits that Zhilei Zhang caught him and dropped him, but stresses that even then he never gave up. He draws on his willingness to rise, his heart that refuses to accept defeat, and his hunger to face new challenges. To him, Parker represents a different kind of challenge, a fresh test of character and skill. Rather than fearing that, Wardley says he welcomes it because these kinds of opponents are exactly what he seeks at this stage of his career. He talks about Parker not being Fraser Clarke or Justis Huni, insisting this fight is unlike those previous names. Wardley positions Parker as a distinct challenge, but also an opponent he believes he can overcome. Joseph Parker, however, raises the stakes higher, separating himself from every other fighter Wardley has faced. Parker makes it clear that Wardley is stepping into dangerous territory, a step up from developmental fights. He boldly reminds Wardley that this is not Fraser Clarke or Justis Huni. This is Joseph Parker, a seasoned champion who has fought the best, a dangerous operator who brings experience and adaptability into the ring. Parker positions himself as a different beast altogether, one Wardley has not yet encountered. For all Wardley's talk about power and aggression, Parker makes it clear that words alone cannot intimidate him. He has walked through fire against men far more threatening and powerful, and he survived. He suggests that Wardley's confidence is more noise than genuine threat. For Parker, the real test is what happens under the bright lights when Wardley realizes he is in with someone who has already faced and withstood some of the hardest nights the heavyweight division can offer. Wardley continues to play up his usual role, promising fans that he always brings drama. He assures Parker directly that he will bring the heat and wishes him the best, but behind the bravado there is still the acknowledgement that this is a step up for him. He frames the fight as a clash that will inevitably bring fireworks one way or another. Observers like Johnny Nelson point to Parker's arsenal as the decisive factor. Nelson highlights Parker's crisp combinations, his blend of speed and power, and his ability to dictate rhythm in a fight. Nelson warns that if Wardley cannot smother that rhythm, he will drown under it. Unlike one-dimensional heavyweights who rely solely on power, Parker is versatile. He possesses multiple set combinations, 6 or 7 sequences that he can fall back on during a fight, and that makes him unpredictable and difficult to contain. Nelson emphasizes that Wardley's best hope is to control Parker, but if he fails, an upset is not only possible but likely. He leaves the door open by reminding everyone that heavyweight boxing is inherently dramatic, but clearly believes Parker's well-roundedness gives him the edge. When asked whether Parker has the necessary power or speed, Nelson stresses his combination of speed and timing rather than raw knockout force. For him, Parker's sharpness and polish style matter more than whether he lands a single devastating punch. Adam Smith takes the analysis further, framing Parker as a man rejuvenated under the tutelage of Andy Lee. According to Smith, Parker's movement, confidence, and timing are sharper than ever before. He notes that Parker has been hurt in the past, dropped by Dillian White, stopped by Joe Joyce, but insists those setbacks have only made Parker smarter and more dangerous. Smith describes this fight not as a simple case of power versus chin, but as a clash of raw power against the evolution of a seasoned fighter. Parker, in his eyes, is better now than at any other point in his career. For Wardley, that makes this not just a test of strength, but of adaptability. Smith does, however, balance his praise by acknowledging that Wardley cannot be written off. Punchers always carry that equalizer, and Parker has been vulnerable before. Yet for him, Parker's rejuvenated form means Wardley faces a problem far greater than anything he has previously encountered. The critique of Wardley deepens when Smith and others reflect on his last performance against Justis Huni. Though Wardley emerged victorious, the fight exposed cracks in his style. He was repeatedly outboxed, frustrated, and appeared vulnerable for long stretches until his power bailed him out. Critics see this as a dangerous sign. In heavyweight boxing, relying on one weapon is precarious. Against someone as experienced and composed as Parker, the same trick is unlikely to work. Parker has the durability, jab, and boxing intelligence to nullify raw power and turn the fight into a demonstration of skill over chaos. This becomes even clearer when Duke McKenzie speaks. McKenzie does not hold back, stating bluntly that Wardley leans too heavily on his power. He describes Wardley's reliance on the big right hand as a recipe for disaster at the elite level. Against Joseph Parker, a fighter with discipline, polish, and high boxing IQ, such a limited approach is unlikely to succeed. McKenzie believes Parker's resurgence under Andy Lee has made him sharper, hungrier, and far more confident. Wardley, by contrast, is still a man riding largely on raw talent and grit. McKenzie notes that while Wardley deserves credit for his spirit and determination, his ability to stick in fights even when he is behind on points, character alone does not win world-class contests. Against Huni, Wardley was losing almost every round yet refused to fold. That grit impressed observers, but Parker is a different caliber of opponent. Unlike Huni, Parker knows how to close the show. If he has Wardley hurt or on the brink, he will not let him off the hook. McKenzie underlines that Parker is not part of Wardley's learning curve, he is the exam itself. Spencer Oliver agrees, but he frames Wardley's grit in a slightly more positive light. He says what Wardley proved against Huni is that he has the kind of character every fighter needs. He did not give up, even when outboxed round after round. He carried his punch until the very end and never lost spirit. Oliver concedes that Parker will have to engage at some point, and in those exchanges Wardley will get his opportunities. However, Oliver believes Parker's experience and composure give him the edge in those very moments. Parker has the chin and skill to survive and counter, turning Wardley's aggression into opportunities of his own. What separates Parker from many in the division, Oliver argues, is his refusal to sit idle while waiting for politics to clear. With Alexander Usyk holding the WBO strap and claiming injuries while being spotted dancing, many see Parker as being unfairly frozen out of his rightful title shot. Yet Parker refuses to wait. Rather than sit inactive, he chooses risk. He knows inactivity is its own form of defeat, so he chooses to stay active against dangerous opponents like Wardley. Oliver respects this mentality because it shows Parker is willing to gamble when others might take the safe road. For Oliver, this makes Parker the embodiment of a fighter's mentality. He is not hiding behind rankings or mandatories. He is stepping into risk to prove his worth. If Parker wins, his claim as Usyk's mandatory challenger strengthens. If he loses, the climb back becomes brutal. But Parker is prepared to take that risk, showing he has the hunger and confidence to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Duke McKenzie once again returns to Wardley's technical limitations, stressing that unless Wardley develops versatility, he will be brutally exposed. He warns that relying on a one-punch miracle against Parker is doomed to fail. Unlike Huni, Parker knows how to punish vulnerability. McKenzie also draws attention to the constant talk about Wardley's background in white-collar boxing, noting that while it makes his rise inspirational, it also reflects his inexperience at the elite level. Against Parker, that gulf in experience may be laid bare. Parker has shared the ring with Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, Joe Joyce, and Dillian White. He knows how to adapt mid-fight, how to endure punishment, and how to find a way to win. Wardley, for all his grit, still looks like a man developing on the job. Adam Catterall shifts the focus to the political landscape. He points out how the WBO is monitoring Usyk's situation carefully, as the champion claims injury yet appears in public looking perfectly healthy. This fuels the belief that Usyk is deliberately stalling to avoid dangerous challengers like Parker. Catterall argues that this makes the Wardley fight even more significant. Since Parker cannot secure his rightful title shot, he must take dangerous fights in the meantime. Wardley, therefore, becomes not just a fight of activity, but a statement. Parker wants to show the division and its champions that if they continue to avoid him, he will dismantle every pretender put in front of him until they have no choice but to acknowledge him. For Spencer Oliver, the situation highlights a broader frustration. Parker has done everything right, rebuilt his career, beaten strong opponents, and yet still finds himself frozen out of title contention because of politics. Usyk holding the belt while sitting inactive bottlenecks the entire division. Fighters like Parker are forced into high-risk, non-title fights just to stay sharp. But Parker accepts that reality and embraces it. He refuses to wait on someone else's timeline. As Oliver notes, Parker has far more to lose in this fight than Wardley. If Parker slips, his momentum is derailed, and the climb back will be punishing. Yet he chooses that risk because inactivity would be worse. For Oliver, that shows why fans respect Parker. He is the rare heavyweight in today's game willing to gamble rather than sit idle protecting a record. The discussion of what is truly at stake becomes more intense. This fight is about far more than just bragging rights. For Parker, victory would cement his place as the man knocking hardest at the door of another world title shot. It would showcase his evolution under Andy Lee and erase doubts stemming from past setbacks. For Wardley, victory would catapult him from a respected, unbeaten puncher to a legitimate contender on the world stage. His undefeated record, already impressive on paper, would be validated against a former champion. On the flip side, defeat for Parker would make his climb back longer and harsher, while defeat for Wardley would expose him as a fighter not yet ready for the elite. Duke McKenzie concludes that grit and determination are admirable, but without the substance of skill and adaptability, they eventually meet their limit. Against Joseph Parker, a man with Polish pedigree and proven resilience, Wardley risks learning that brutal lesson. The tension heading into the fight captures the essence of heavyweight boxing. It is not just about belts, but about credibility, hunger, and legacy. The question is who handles the pressure better, who adapts when fatigue sets in, who remains calm under the brightest lights. The narratives are clear. Parker is the battle-tested champion reborn, desperate for another world title opportunity, and Wardley is the hungry, unbeaten puncher determined to prove that his story is more than hype. As the fight approaches, fans sense the electricity. It is a crossroads for both men. Win, and Parker strengthens his claim as Usyk's rightful challenger. Win, and Wardley shocks the world, silencing doubts about his background and proving he belongs at the highest level. Lose, and Parker faces a painful rebuild. Lose, and Wardley's undefeated record becomes a reminder that raw power alone is not enough. This fight embodies what heavyweight boxing should be: high risk, high reward, with no easy paths. The question remains, will Joseph Parker's class, experience, and evolution shine through, or will Fabio Wardley's grit and punch power deliver the upset? That is the drama that awaits under the October lights.